Well, after evaluating the conflicting argument, you may find the problem with it. Then you can easily refute it. For example, Dr. Hawking finds that the reason of the conflicting argument, the past was pure and simpler, is not true. Then he rebuts it saying the past was not that wonderful. Here's another example. What kind of argument is this? It's an analogical argument. So we should ask first if the two parts of the analogy are truly similar. The author here compares the environment that influenced the house prices in the past with the present environment that is influencing house prices. Of course, the environment in these two time periods truly have something in common. So we move on to the second question. Do they share a number of similarities or do they have just a few similarities? I would say many things have changed. So we found the problem with the argument. Then we can rebut it saying house prices are influenced by many factors, such as financial market home and abroad, government policies, or economic growth, to name a few. And they have changed dramatically since the 1980s. So you see, evaluate the conflicting argument, find its problem, and rebut it. But here's another question. What if we find no problem with the conflicting argument? How can we refute it? This time we come back to see the difference between inductive arguments and deductive arguments. Remember, we said deductive arguments are usually very strong because the logic of deductive arguments is if the premise is true, then the thesis must be true. So if after evaluation you find a deductive kind of conflicting argument strong, then I would suggest you rethink about your own argument. However, if the conflicting argument you're dealing with is a strong inductive argument, then there's still something you can do to rebut it. Because the logic of inductive arguments is that if the premise is true, the thesis is probably true. This means no matter how strong an inductive argument is, there's always other possibilities. Let's recall some of the examples we saw in the previous lessons. What kind of argument is this? It's reasoning by generalization. Then we need to ask three questions. First, are the specific cases true? The specific cases are listed in the sentences in blue. People wear skimpy outfits, women wear makeup, men lift weights to show off. These are hard facts. Anyone who goes into the fitness center can see them, so we can assume them to be true. Then we can ask the second question. Are they sufficient in number? Would you say no? We won't expect the author to give us a long list of examples. Here he offers us some cases of what the men and women do. I think it's enough for here. So now we can ask the third question. Are these cases representative enough? They cover both the men and the women's behavior. They also tell us what they do and what they wear. So it is representative. Then our conclusion would be it's a strong argument. So how can we refute it? Remember, we can think of other possibilities. Here we can rebut it, saying, there are also many people who come to the fitness center to just work out. Here's another example. This argument is supported by the analogy between the showing of a sketch of a fugitive on TV last month and the showing of such a sketch on TV tonight. We can again ask the 4 questions used to evaluate analogical arguments. Then we can see the 2 situations are very similar except for the time. So we decide that it's a strong argument. But we can still refute it by pointing out the dissimilarities between them. One way to do it is to say, people may become less enthusiastic about it after calling several times in vain. Now let's look at a causal argument. Your neighbor said, the lightning struck the house and caused a fire, so we don't need to do anything to prevent such fire from happening again. It's all uncontrollable force. Now imagine you investigated and found there's indeed no other factors that might be the cause of the fire. Then you could consider it a strong causal argument. But you still think there's something people can do to prevent such disasters from happening again. You want to refute your neighbor's argument. What would you do? Again, you can think of other possibilities. You could say, it's true that lightning is the cause of the fire and it's natural disaster, but the design of the house, especially the technology of the roof and the material of the house, may also contribute to how serious the fire could be. See, your neighbor's argument has been refuted. So to make it clear one more time, to rebut a conflicting argument, first tell the type of the argument, then evaluate it to find the problem, and then you can directly tell why it's problematic. And for those arguments which you decide to be strong ones, if they're inductive arguments, think of other possibilities to show that the argument may not be very convincing in some other cases. And if they are deductive arguments, perhaps you need to reconsider the strength of your own argument.